We're sticking with the theme of Northern Ireland, and this time we're looking at Mourne Mountain on the UK Brewery Project. Conor McGreevy was running a successful facilities management company called CTS, who were originally a building company, but then expanded into renewable heating and building maintenance. After visiting some craft breweries on his travels and seeing the brewing industry at work, and also being a bit of an entrepreneur with his fingers in many pies, he decided to start a brewery. In 2015, he leased the unit on the same industrial estate he was currently using for his CTS business in Warren Point, which is just to the south of Newry and has views of the Mourne Mountain range, which is how he hit upon the name for his brewery. Brand new equipment was brought for the brewery, but although new, it wasn't a fully automated brewery. The setup that they installed is capable of producing 16 hectolitres per brew. That's just over about 2,800 pints. To undertake the brewing, Conair brought on Tom Ray, who had previous brewing experience at Mighty Oak and Crouch Vale Brewing, along with, I think, working for quite a while for Diageo as well. The three beers that were produced in May 2015 at the brewery for their launch were Mourne Gold, which was golden ale, Red Trail, which is a red IPA, and Big Rock, which was a wheat beer. Out of those, only Mourne Gold is still being produced to date. Now, normally, this is where I'd crack open the gold, but for those with keen eyes, you might see that I don't have the gold. But what I shall be opening is a beer that they released later that year in September 2015, which has gone on to become their best-selling beer, and that is Mourne Mist right here. Now let me get a glass. This is nicely chilled, and let's pour this into the glass. I'm going to pour it all out, otherwise it'll look too little. Here we go. So I should sort of say for them that the water that's used in this Pilsner is coming from the Mourne Mountain range, which, just like Beer Hut and Whitewater, I'm expecting this to be a soft water beer, which is excellent for Pilsners. We have obviously the expected colour, a nice one finger tight head on there, and there's a slow rising carbonation coming up from the bottom. This isn't a nucleated base. Let's have a nose and see what it's like. All right, a malty nose. Yeah, that's smelling like a Pilsner to me. Let's tuck in and see. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's malty, you know, sort of a biscuit malt, but there's also quite a bit of bitterness in there as well. Yeah, there's quite a bit of bitterness in that. So it is balanced nicely, but I wasn't expecting the bitterness level to be that high for this sort of Pilsner. But as I expected, the water is soft, and that makes it a nice, clean, smooth beer at that stage. Now, I should say, this is the lowest ABV here on the table, with the next lowest being 7%, meaning it's all uphill from here. At this stage, the brewery were only putting their stuff into bottles or kegs. In 2016, the awards started to roll in. Their East Coast IPA they started making won a silver at the Dublin Craft Beer Cup. And importantly, they were the only brewery from Northern Ireland to win an award there. This was followed by Red Trail getting a 2-star rating from the Great Taste Awards, which is a sort of a blind tasting event of food and drink where I think it's 500 to 800 people do the tasting, and then they decide whether it's worthy of a star rating. And they got 2-star for drinks category in Northern Ireland, but 3 stars is the max, so 2 stars is decent out of that. In May 2017, the brewery secured a deal to supply Red Trail to 18 M&S stores across Northern Ireland. This was followed the next month with a deal to supply 3 of their beers, the East Coast IPA, the Gold Pale Ale, and the Mist Pilsner here, to Sainsbury's stores in Northern Ireland. Around this time, they were producing about 250,000 bottles a year, which obviously with that deal they expected the number to increase exponentially. Also in 2007, Connor, as said, fingers in many pies, he bought the Old Ship Inn, which was a pub based in Warren Point, which gave him the opportunities for direct sales of his beer. In 2018, a canning line was actually installed at the brewery. With the introduction of this canning line, the team decided on a new naming policy for their all their new beers released. So the beers would be named after peaks or walking trails in the area in the Mourne Mountains. So the original label design was also, quite basic at that stage. But when they moved to cans, they decided to make the most of these wraps. And all the labels now are photos of the area that the beer is named after. So for example, good one here, Seven Seas. It's named after a 19-mile race across the 7 highest peaks on the mountain range. And this photo seems to show one of the peaks, and you've got all the rocks at the top. Looks lovely. Since I'm holding this, why don't I go from the lowest ABV beer on the table to the highest? This is an 11% Triple IPA. Let's get a glass and pour this out and see what we're getting. Going into double-digit territory already. Right, as it's 11, I'm obviously not going to pour all of it straight out into here. Wow, I got a whiff of that. So there we go. We're looking at a very, very hazy beer with a lovely colour on it, a beautiful colour on it. And I smelt it. I did get a smell of it. Oh, wow, that's massive hop levels in that. It is smelling amazing. It is a New England IPA, I think, along those lines. I know it's down as a triple, but it's a New England style triple, I would say. And the nose is just amazing. Fruits and citrus marmalade. Oh, that is great. This is a new beer. It's only been released this year, so I should just sort of add that. Right, let's have a taste of this. Oh, and yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, that's good, but boozy as well. You can feel the ABV in that. Sometimes with New England, because of the amount of fruit flavors in there, it sort of hides that ABV or masks it. That you can still get a sort of tinge to say this is a bit boozy. Oh, but that is nice. And again, so smooth. The water is just brilliant for producing these sort of beers. I mean, by 2020, if you were to look at the beers they were producing then, you can see the range had totally changed from the original Pilsners and ales they had launched with. And they'd moved into producing like double IPAs, imperial stouts, and even they started barrel aging. They won awards at SEBA for some of these new brews. I think particularly the barrel aging won award as well. Ominously, the brewery held its first taproom event at the brewery on the 22nd of Feb 2020. A month later, UK would enter COVID lockdown. The event, though, seemed to be a success and more. It was, I say, more an event than run-of-the-mill sort of tap room. They had a band, they had Meet the Brewer, and they had a choice of 8 beers plus bottles and cans as well. And as you would expect, they didn't have any tap rooms during COVID times because, well, COVID. And as I've discussed previously during the UK Brewery Project on One's Focusing on Northern Ireland, the legislation, which is soon changing, doesn't permit for sort of permanent tap rooms, and instead opening tap room is seen as much like an open day at the brewery, i.e. sort of a special event held every so often. In July 21, they were actually refused a temporary license for a tap room event and had to shift it to his pub, the Old Chip Inn, and operate as sort of a tap takeover instead. But obviously the pub is a smaller space and can't handle as many. But hopefully, with the changes coming in, it might make it worthwhile for me to do a visit to Northern Ireland, to visit some of the tap rooms when they're able to actually have them open regularly every week. I think also, going back to the beers, the flagship here, Mourne Mist, was actually rebranded in 2001. It had the old logo up until that stage, and it's obviously gone to something where it's shown the mist in Mourne Mountain. So brought it more in line with the rest of the beers that they had, and that design that was introduced, I say, in 2018. Also, it still is done in bottle, but they used to put a light green cap on top of it, like the mist element, but now it's more standard, I think, silver cap, which is probably easier to source a silver or black cap, as they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere at that stage. It was also around this time in 2021, after 6 years at the brewery, Tom left for pastures new. Gareth McGiven took over the helm, having been working at the brewery since 2018 as a brewer. He has since experimented with some fruited sours and even a barley wine. And I guess with that lead in, let's get this bad boy open. This is a barley wine that has been barrel aged for 14 months in a Teelin single malt cask. Now, Teelin are a small batch distillery that are based in Dublin. I've not had any of their whiskies before, and I'm also unsure if this is the peated or the unpeated version, but I guess I'll find out as I tuck in and taste it. This is 10%. Unlike the other ones, I actually did take this out of the fridge to let it warm up a bit to room temperature, because you don't want a barley wine that's just going to be chilled beyond recognition and taste. Now let's pour out a good size for sampling. That will do for the moment. It's only a 330ml bottle, and I think this is one of the last ones that's bottle only, not coming in canned barley wines. It's looking a bit lighter than I thought a barley wine would be, or than a barley wine should be at that stage, but let's have a sniff and see what it smells like. Oh wow, that big malty nose on that. Also getting a bit of chocolate as well coming through, so I wonder if they've used chocolate malt in there. And I don't know if I'm getting a bit of peat as well. Oh, I'm interested now. Is this actually going to be a peated one? That'll be interesting to see. All right, let's taste this. Oh, yep. Bit of whiskey. A whiskey note on it. There is a whiskey note on it. This is definitely a sipper. That's very filling of a beer. Oh, wow. And that doesn't taste boozy, but I definitely think you'd feel it. 10% on this, I think, will hit more than, say, the 11% on the 7.7s. I mean, the fruity flavour, although it's a bit boozy, I think that is going to hit more. Wow, that is a lovely one to have, but definitely a sipping one. I don't know whether I will only have this and put that back in the fridge and maybe have it a bit more later. let's see. Right, I think we're sort of up to date with the brewery, so it's time we go through what would be their core beers. So as I've sort of said, Mourne Gold is one of their original ones, and that's still one of their core beers they produce. So that's a 4% golden ale. The Mourne Mist, which is their biggest seller, is 4.5% Pilsner. Then they also have, I'm checking it's this one here, we've got Electra, which is an 8% double IPA. And then we've also got another IPA that they do called OTT, which is probably over the top, it's called. It's a 5.8% American IPA. They've got another one which is called The Wall, which is an 8% double IPA. They've obviously produced an Irish stout called Galfie, I think 4.1% standard percentage. And then we've got over here Bear Grease, which is a double oatmeal stout coming in at 7%. With the water, that would be interesting to see how that comes out, particularly as oatmeal will give you more of a mouthfeel, but with the soft water, that would be interesting. They obviously, they're the core beers that they do, and then otherwise it's all about the specials. So 7.7s, which is their strongest beer they've produced to date at 11%. Then we have next to it here, the Wee Honey, which is a honeycomb imperial stout at 9%. Sounds good as well. They've got one called Crammed, which I think is named after an area, so it's Krammed. It's a 4.5% New England IPA, which has 12 grams of hops per litre. And I can't remember what the hops are in there, but yeah, that's going to be a big hoppy session beer. They've also released one recently called Yellow Brick Road, which is a pastry stout at 6.5%. But altogether, I think they've made like over 70 different beers over their 7 years. So it's not massive variation of beers, unlike you find with some of the other upstarts, such as like Polly's, but they are doing a variety of different styles at least. Yeah, that's better. That started to feel a bit of a, you know, when you're leaving it in your mouth, you start feeling a bit more of the malt and that sort of whiskey cask in there. Makes it feel more boozy than it actually is. Award-wise, so their latest actual awards came at the end of 21 in the regional SIBA competition. And what they had was their 3.8% Session IPA won a gold in the Session IPA bottle can category. The Bear Grease here won silver in the bottle can strong beer category, which I think is beers over 6.5%. And then Mourne Mist here won a bronze in the bottle can premium lager / Pilsner category. So they are still winning awards. They've won quite a few awards over their time. I think this is the most awarded beer that they've got there. And I guess on that note, I'll have a sip of their beer and see you out, and see you next time here on the UK Brewery Project. Take care, everyone.